2 weeks after my daughter's perfect wedding, the photographer called me with a disturbing discovery in the photos. And what I saw in those images would make me destroy the man who married my only child for my money, but not before I made him regret ever hearing my family's name. Welcome back to your ultimate destination for gripping revenge stories, family betrayals, shocking betrayals, and emotional justice. Subscribe now and join a community and tell us where you're watching from. Turn on the notification bell for our next story. Are you ready to witness the ultimate payback? Let's get started. My name is ZAHA Harrison. I'm 68 years old, and I've spent my life building a real estate empire worth about $50 million. I've negotiated with billionaires, survived the 2008 crash, built something from nothing. I thought I'd seen every kind of predator, every kind of con, but I'd never seen someone hunt my daughter. CTA number 1. If you've ever had that gut feeling that something was wrong but couldn't prove it, or if you've ever wished someone had protected you when you needed it most, leave a comment below. This story is for you. The wedding was 2 weeks ago, Saturday, September 16th, at the Riverside Estate in Connecticut. 200 guests, a string quartet, flowers that cost more than most people's cars, and my daughter Sarah in a dress that made her look like something out of a fairy tale. She was 28 years old, my only child, and the only thing in my life that mattered more than money. Her mother, my wife Elena, had died 5 years ago from an aneurysm, sudden and brutal, leaving Sarah and me to figure out how to live in a world without her light. Sarah had struggled. Depression, therapy, years of trying to find solid ground after her mother died. And then, about a year ago, she'd met Marcus Chun at a charity gala. Financial consultant, she'd said. Smart, charming, successful. He was 32, handsome in that polished way that comes from expensive grooming, and he'd swept Sarah off her feet. The courtship was fast. 6 months from first date to engagement. I'd had concerns about the speed, but Sarah was happy, really happy, for the first time since her mother died. And after watching my daughter grieve for years, I would have given her anything that brought that smile back to her face. Even if it meant ignoring the small voice in the back of my head that said something was off about Marcus Chun. The wedding day was perfect. Sarah radiant, Marcus attentive, vows that made half the guests cry. I walked my daughter down the aisle and placed her hand in Marcus's, and I told myself that my concerns were just a father's natural protectiveness, that Marcus would take care of her, that she'd be happy. The reception went until midnight. Dancing, champagne, toasts that celebrated young love and new beginnings. I danced with Sarah, held her close, and whispered, "Your mother would be so proud of who you've become." She'd cried a little, happy tears, and said, "I wish she was here." She is, I told her. She's always here. Marcus and Sarah left for their honeymoon in Bali the next morning. They were supposed to be gone for 2 weeks, due back tomorrow. I'd been counting down the days, excited to see them, to hear about the trip, to start figuring out how to be a father-in-law instead of just a father. And then, this morning, my phone rang. "Mr. Harrison? This is Mike Foster." I was the photographer for Sarah's wedding. I recognized the name. Mike Foster Photography, highly recommended, professional, had done a beautiful job capturing the day. "Mike, yes. Hello. I haven't received the final photos yet, but the previews you sent were wonderful." There was a pause on the line, long enough that I thought we'd been disconnected. "Mike, Mr. Harrison, I need to meet with you. Today, if possible. There's something in the wedding photos, something very disturbing. Something you need to see." My stomach dropped. "What do you mean? Is something wrong with the photos?" "No, sir. The photos are fine. It's what's in the photos. What I found when I was editing them." Another pause. I almost didn't call. I told myself it wasn't my business. "But I have a daughter too, Mr. Harrison. She's only 10, but..." I couldn't stay silent. "Not about this." My heart started pounding. "What did you find?" "I can't explain over the phone. You need to see it. Can you come to my studio? Today? And please." His voice dropped. "Don't tell anyone yet. Not Sarah, not Marcus. Not until you see what I found." "I'll be there in an hour," I said. I hung up and stood in my study. The same study where I'd helped Sarah with her homework when she was 8, where I'd held Elena while she cried after her mother died, where I'd toasted Sarah's engagement 6 months ago, and I felt something cold settle into my chest. Something was wrong. Something was very, very wrong. Mike Foster's photography studio was in a converted warehouse in downtown Hartford, about 40 minutes from my home in West Hartford. I made the drive in 35, breaking every speed limit, my mind racing with possibilities. Had Marcus done something inappropriate at the wedding? Had Mike caught him with another woman? Was there something in the background of the photos, some detail that revealed a secret? The studio was on the 3rd floor. I took the stairs 2 at a time, feeling my age in my knees but ignoring it. Mike met me at the door, mid-40s, graying hair pulled into a small ponytail, the kind of artistic-looking guy who probably drove a Subaru and voted Democrat. "Mr. Harrison," he said, shaking my hand. His grip was firm, but his palm was sweaty. "Thank you for coming so quickly. What did you find?" He gestured to his editing suite. 3 large monitors mounted on a desk, thousands of wedding photos organized in folders on the screens. "I need to explain something first," Mike said, pulling up a chair for me. "I take a lot of candid shots at weddings. Moments people don't realize I'm capturing. It's part of my style, mixing the posed formal shots with the real, unguarded moments. Those candids often become people's favorite photos because they show genuine emotion." "Okay," I said, sitting down, my hands gripping the armrests. "But candid shots also capture things people don't realize are happening. Background details, reflections, things visible in mirrors, windows, phone screens when the light hits them right." He pulled up a photo on the center monitor. It was from early in the wedding day, Sarah in her dressing room with her bridesmaids, everyone laughing, champagne glasses raised. "A beautiful moment. This is a lovely photo," Mike said. "But look here." He zoomed in on the corner of the image. In the background, barely visible in the reflection of a full-length mirror, Marcus was in the hallway outside. On his phone. "So he was on his phone," I said. "People check their phones." "Yes," Mike agreed. But this was during the first look, when Sarah was about to come out and see him for the first time in her dress. Most grooms are nervous, excited, focused. He was texting. Mike pulled up another photo. The ceremony, during the processional. Sarah walking down the aisle toward Marcus. The photo was focused on Sarah, radiant and emotional. But Mike zoomed in on Marcus in the background. His hand was in his jacket pocket. And visible in the photo, if you looked very, very closely, was the faint glow of a phone screen through the fabric. "He was on his phone during your daughter's walk down the aisle," Mike said quietly. My jaw tightened. "That's inappropriate. But maybe he was just nervous." "Mr. Harrison, I have 47 photos from throughout the wedding day where Marcus is on his phone. During the ceremony, during the reception, during his own first dance with Sarah." Mike's voice was steady, but there was anger underneath it. That alone made me curious. So I started looking closer. He pulled up a series of photos, all of them showing Marcus in various moments throughout the day. In each one, if you looked carefully at reflections, in windows, in wine glasses, in polished surfaces, you could see his phone screen. And in several of them, with enough digital enhancement, you could read the texts. Mike pulled up one image and zoomed in until the text was clear enough to read. It was from someone named Jay. "How's it going? Is he buying everything?" Marcus's response, visible in another photo taken seconds later. "Completely. Already talking about putting my name on accounts. This is going to be easier than we thought." I felt the blood drain from my face. "There's more," Mike said quietly. He pulled up another exchange, this one from during the reception. "Jay, how much longer do we have to wait?" "Marcus, 6 months, maybe less. Once I'm established and have access, we execute the plan. Then we're both set for life." The room started spinning. I gripped the armrest harder, my knuckles white. "Who is Jay?" I managed to ask. "I don't know yet," Mike said. "But there's something else you need to see." He pulled up a video, a short clip, maybe 10 seconds long, from the reception. Marcus was at the bar, waiting for drinks, and he thought no one was watching. His face in that unguarded moment was different. Not the warm, loving expression he wore when people were looking. Cold, calculating. The face of someone playing a role. "I'm also a hobbyist when it comes to research," Mike said carefully. After I found these texts, I looked into Marcus Chun. LinkedIn, Facebook, public records. He pulled up a browser window. Multiple tabs open. Marcus Chun has 3 LinkedIn profiles under slight variations of his name. Marcus Chun, Marcus T, Chun, M, Thomas Chun. Different work histories on each. He's been a financial consultant, a startup founder, an investment advisor. But when you trace the companies, most of them don't exist or existed for less than a year. My hands were shaking now. There's also a civil case from 2 years ago, Mike continued. A woman named Diane Westerson sued him for fraud. She was a widow, wealthy, met Marcus at a conference. They dated for 8 months, got engaged. He convinced her to invest in his business opportunities. She gave him $700,000. Then he disappeared. The case was settled out of court, terms confidential, but she got at least some of her money back. Oh God, I whispered. And there's this. Mike pulled up a Facebook profile. A woman named Jennifer Walsh. 30 years old, blonde, attractive. Her relationship status said, in a relationship with Marcus Chun. That profile was active until 2 months ago, Mike said. Right before Marcus proposed to Sarah. Then it went dormant. No new posts, no activity. But before that, there are years of photos. Marcus and Jennifer at restaurants, on vacations, at family events. They've been together for at least 5 years based on the photo timeline. I stared at the screen, at this woman who was apparently Marcus's real girlfriend, and I felt something break inside my chest. Not for me, but for Sarah. My daughter. My beautiful, trusting, heartbroken from losing her mother-daughter, who'd finally found happiness again. And it was all a lie. There's one more thing, Mike said, his voice gentler now. I debated whether to show you this, but you need to know the full picture. He pulled up the most recent photos from the reception. The last dance, close to midnight. Sarah and Marcus swaying together, her head on his shoulder, looking perfectly happy. Mike zoomed in on Marcus's face. His expression was one of mild boredom. And visible in the reflection of the window behind them was his phone screen again, showing a text exchange. Jay, I miss you. When does this end? Marcus, soon. 6 months maximum. Then we're done with this charade, and we take everything. Just be patient. Jay, I love you. Marcus, love you too. This will all be worth it. I stood up so fast the chair fell backward. Where is he? I asked, my voice shaking with rage. Where the hell is he? They're in Bali, Mike said. Due back tomorrow, according to Sarah's Instagram. Mr. Harrison, I know this is. Do you have copies of all this? Every photo, every text, every piece of evidence. Yes, on an external drive. I was going to give it to you. I need it. All of it. And I need you to do something else for me. Anything. I turned to look at him. This stranger who'd done what I should have done, who'd seen what I should have seen, who'd been brave enough to interfere in something that wasn't his business because it was the right thing to do. I need you to help me destroy him, I said. Completely. Before he can hurt Sarah any more than he already has. Mike looked at me for a long moment, then nodded. I have a daughter too, he said quietly. Let's protect yours. I didn't sleep that night. I sat in my study with Mike's external drive, going through every photo, every text, every piece of evidence, and I felt my rage grow into something cold and focused. Marcus Chun, if that was even his real name, had seen my daughter as a mark. A vulnerable, grieving woman with a wealthy father. He'd researched her, found her at that gala, presented himself as exactly what she needed, and then slowly, methodically, worked his way into her life and mine. And I'd let him. I'd had concerns. I'd felt that something was off. But I'd ignored it because Sarah was happy, and I'd wanted her to be happy so desperately that I'd silenced my own instincts. That ended now. At 7 the next morning, I called Harold Meeks. Harold was a private investigator I'd used a few times for business purposes, background checks on potential partners, due diligence on investments. He was thorough, discreet, and expensive. Harold, I need everything you can find on someone named Marcus Chun, also goes by Marcus T. Chun and M. Thomas Chun. Age approximately 32, claims to be a financial consultant. I'm sending you photos and what information I have. I need his real identity, his real history, his associates, his finances, everything. And I need it in 48 hours. That's a tight timeline. Money is not an object. I'll pay whatever it takes. This man married my daughter under false pretenses, and I need to know exactly who and what he is before I take action. Harold's tone changed, becoming sharper. I'll have preliminary information by tonight. Full report in 48 hours. You'll have everything. Next, I called my attorney, Richard Walsh. Richard had been handling my legal affairs for 20 years, contracts, real estate deals, estate planning. But he also did family law and had connections to criminal attorneys. Richard, I need you to clear your schedule. I'm sending you evidence of fraud, possibly identity theft, potentially more. The perpetrator is my daughter's new husband. I need to know what charges he could face, what protections we can put in place for Sarah, and what legal actions I can take immediately. ZAHA, slow down. Tell me exactly what happened. I spent 30 minutes walking him through everything. The photos, the texts, the background Mike had uncovered. Richard listened without interrupting, and when I finished, he was silent for a long moment. This is serious, he said finally. If he's been operating under false pretenses, if he's convinced Sarah or you to give him access to funds or legal authority, we're looking at fraud at minimum. Possibly identity theft, forgery if he signed documents under a false identity, potentially more depending on what the investigator finds. I want him prosecuted. We can do that. But ZAHA, you need to think about Sarah. When she finds out. I know, I said, my voice breaking slightly. I know it's going to destroy her. But staying silent while he continues manipulating her, continues positioning himself to take everything from her, that would be worse. Agreed. But we need to handle this carefully. If we move too fast, he could run. If we tell Sarah before we have all the evidence secured, she might warn him. She loves him. She'll want to believe in him. So what do? We build an airtight case first. Get everything from the investigator. Document every fraudulent claim, every falsified identity, every cent he's accessed. Then we present it all at once, to Sarah, to him, and if necessary to the police. We give him nowhere to run and no way to talk his way out. How long? With a good investigator? A week, maybe 2. They get back from Bali tonight. I need this done before he has a chance to do more damage. Richard was quiet, thinking. Then we need to stall him. Keep him from taking any major actions while we gather evidence. Can you do that? I can try. And ZAHA? When we do this, when we reveal everything, be ready. Because Sarah is going to be devastated. She's going to need you more than ever. I know, I whispered. God, I know. Harold called me at 9 that night. I have preliminary information, he said. And you're not going to like it. Tell me. Marcus Chun is not his birth name. He was born Michael Thomas Chandler in Portland, Oregon. He legally changed his name 6 years ago, right after a bankruptcy filing where he owed creditors over $400,000 from a failed business venture. My hands clenched. What else? He has a pattern. Over the past 6 years, I've found evidence of 3 serious relationships with wealthy women. The first was Diane Westerson. You already know about her case. The second was a woman named Patricia Gomez in San Francisco. They dated for a year. He convinced her to loan him money for investments, then disappeared. She never filed charges because she was embarrassed and wanted to move on. And the third, her name was Catherine Ross. She was 62, widowed, worth about $8 million. They met at a financial planning seminar. Marcus was presenting himself as an advisor. They dated for 6 months, got engaged. He convinced her to add him to several accounts for estate planning purposes. Then she died. My blood ran cold. What? She died in a fall down the stairs in her home. Marcus was there. He called 911, very distressed, claimed she'd tripped. The death was ruled accidental. But here's the thing. Marcus was the sole beneficiary of her will, which had been changed just 3 weeks before her death. Her children contested it, claimed undue influence, but the will was legally sound. Marcus walked away with about $3 million after the estate was settled. I felt like I couldn't breathe. Are you saying he killed her? I'm saying the circumstances are suspicious. But there was no evidence of foul play, and the case is closed. Make of that what you will. Jesus Christ. There's more. Jennifer Walsh, the woman in the Facebook photos, she's real. She lives in Boston. She works as a dental hygienist. And according to her credit card statements, which I accessed through, let's say creative means, Marcus has been using her credit cards to pay for things even while he's been with Sarah. He's supporting 2 lives simultaneously. Can we talk to her? Jennifer, I wouldn't recommend approaching her directly yet. If she tips Marcus off that we're investigating, he'll run. Better to gather everything first, then bring her in when we're ready to spring the trap. What else did you find? Marcus has been busy since marrying Sarah. He convinced her to add him as an authorized user on 2 of her credit cards. She has excellent credit, high limits. He's run up about $40,000 in charges. He also convinced Sarah to make him a beneficiary on her trust fund, the one you established for her when her mother died. My vision went red. How do you know that? Because the trust documents require notification to the trustee, which is you, within 30 days of any beneficiary changes. That notification is sitting in your attorney's office right now. Richard probably hasn't reviewed it yet because it's routine paperwork. Sarah changed her trust beneficiary to Marcus 2 weeks before the wedding, which means if something were to happen to Sarah, Marcus would inherit approximately $12 million. The words hung in the air like a death sentence. Harold, I said carefully, do you think Sarah is in danger? I think Marcus is a con artist who's done this before and gotten progressively bolder. I think he's financially motivated and potentially has no conscience. Whether that makes him dangerous in a physical sense, I can't say for certain, but I wouldn't leave Sarah alone with him for extended periods until we know more. They're on a plane right now. They'll be home in 6 hours. Then we need to move fast. I'll have the complete report to you in 24 hours. Everything, his real background, his aliases, his criminal history if any, his associates, his finances, everything. What you do with it is up to you. Thank you, Harold. One more thing. The business Marcus supposedly runs, Chen Financial Consulting? It doesn't exist. The website is fake. The address is a UPS store. The phone number forwards to his cell. He has no clients, no licenses, no credentials. It's all a front. So what does he actually do for money? He targets wealthy women, gains their trust, takes what he can, and moves on. That's his business. And right now, your daughter is his current project. I didn't meet them at the airport. I couldn't. I couldn't look at Marcus without wanting to kill him, and I couldn't look at Sarah without breaking down. Instead, I waited until the next morning, then called Sarah's phone. Dad. Her voice was bright, happy, full of life. We just got home. Bali was incredible. We have so many photos to show you. That's wonderful, sweetheart. I'm so glad you had a good time. Marcus booked us in this amazing villa right on the water, and we went diving and saw manta rays and, she paused. Dad, are you okay? You sound weird. I'm fine. Just tired. Listen, I wanted to invite you and Marcus to dinner this Saturday. My house. I have something I want to discuss with both of you. Ooh, mysterious. What is it? I took a breath. I've been working on updating my estate plan, and I want to talk to you both about some financial matters. Ways I want to help you start your life together. I hated lying to her, but I needed Marcus greedy and confident. Needed him to think he was winning. Needed him to come to that dinner so I could destroy him in front of everyone. Oh, Dad, you don't have to. I want to. Please. Saturday at 7. And Sarah, could you invite your Aunt Linda and Uncle Tom? I'd like them to be part of this conversation too. Sure, I guess. That's kind of formal for a family dinner though. It's important. Trust me. Okay. We'll be there. Should we bring anything? Just yourselves? I said, my heart breaking. That's all I need. Saturday arrived like a countdown to detonation. I'd spent the week preparing. Harold had delivered his complete report, 70 pages of documented fraud, false identities, criminal patterns, and evidence of Marcus's real life with Jennifer in Boston. Richard had reviewed everything and confirmed we had grounds for criminal charges. Mike had organized the wedding photos into a devastating presentation. And I told Sarah's Aunt Linda and Uncle Tom, Elena's sister and brother-in-law, exactly what was happening and what I needed them to do. Be there. Be witnesses. Be support for Sarah when her world fell apart. I'd also made one more call. To Jennifer Walsh. Harold had been right that approaching her was risky, but I decided the risk was worth it. I'd called her, identified myself as Sarah's father, and told her I knew about her relationship with Marcus. There'd been a long silence. Then, he told me you'd figured it out eventually. Said you were smart. He's using both of you, I'd said. My daughter and you. He married her for money while telling you it was temporary. Do you really believe he's coming back to you? Another silence. Then, quietly, no, I don't think I believe that anymore. I'm confronting him Saturday night. In front of my daughter and our family. I'd like you to be there. Not to hurt him. He'll do that to himself. But so Sarah can see the full truth. So she knows she wasn't crazy, that the warning signs she might have felt were real. Why would I help you? Because he's been using your credit cards and your money for 5 years while promising you a future he never intended to give you. Because you deserve better. And because maybe, just maybe, you can stop him from doing this to someone else. She'd agreed. Now it was 6:45 p.m. and everything was in place. The dining room table was set for 7. Linda and Tom had arrived early, nervous but determined. Mike was in my study with his laptop, ready to display the photos on the large TV I'd mounted on the dining room wall. Jennifer was waiting in the guest house. I'll continue 10:50 p.m. off-site until I needed her. And Sarah and Marcus were pulling into the driveway. I watched through the window as they got out of the car. Sarah in a pretty sundress, still glowing from the honeymoon. Marcus in slacks and a button-down shirt, his smile easy and confident. He thought he'd won. He had no idea what was coming. They walked in, and Sarah immediately hugged me. "Dad, the house looks great. What's the occasion?" "I told you. Family dinner and financial planning." Marcus shook my hand, his grip firm, his smile wide. "Mr. Harrison, thank you for having us. Sarah's told me how much you want to help us start our new life together." That means a lot. I wanted to break his hand. Instead, I smiled back. Of course. Family takes care of family. We moved to the dining room, where Linda and Tom waited. More hugs, more pleasantries, more lies covering the truth that was about to detonate. We sat down. Me at the head of the table, Sarah to my right, Marcus next to her, Linda and Tom across from them. I'd made roast chicken, Sarah's favorite, but I knew no one would be eating much tonight. "So," Marcus said, after we'd been served, his tone casual, "you mentioned updating your estate plan?" "I did," I said. "But before we get to that, I wanted to start with something else. A little presentation about family, about trust, about what it means to really know someone." Sarah laughed. "Dad, are you about to give us a lecture?" "Not a lecture," I said, picking up a remote. "More like a reveal." I pressed a button, and the TV on the wall came to life. The first image was from the wedding. Sarah in her dressing room, radiant and happy. "Your wedding was beautiful," I said. "Mike did an incredible job capturing the day." "He really did," Sarah agreed, smiling at the photo. "We haven't seen all the final images yet, but the previews were gorgeous." "Mike has a particular talent," I continued, "for capturing candid moments. Things happening in the background. Details people don't realize are being photographed." I clicked to the next image. The same photo, but zoomed in on the mirror reflection. Marcus in the hallway, on his phone. Sarah's smile faltered slightly. Oh, Marcus was on his phone during that. Marcus's easy expression didn't change. "Just checking some work messages, honey. Nothing important." "Interesting," I said, because this was during the first look. Most grooms are pretty focused on that moment. I clicked again. Another photo, this time during the processional. Marcus's hand in his pocket, phone screen visible through the fabric. Sarah turned to look at Marcus, confusion replacing her smile. "You were on your phone during my walk down the aisle?" I don't remember that," Marcus said, but something flickered in his eyes. "Wariness. There are 47 photos throughout your wedding day where you're on your phone," I said, my voice hardening. "During the ceremony, during the reception, during your first dance with my daughter." "Dad, what is this?" Sarah asked, her voice small. "This?" I said, clicking to the next image, a zoomed-in photo showing Marcus's phone screen with the text messages clear and readable, "is the truth." Sarah leaned forward, reading the texts. Her face went pale. "What?" She turned to Marcus. "What is this?" Marcus's easy confidence was cracking. That's taken out of context. "The old man bought everything." Sarah read aloud, her voice shaking. "She's clueless? 6 months and we'll be set?" I clicked through more images, more text messages, each one more damning than the last. Sarah's hands were trembling. "Marcus, what the hell is this?" "Sarah, let me explain. Then we can execute the plan." She stood up, knocking her chair backward. "Who is Jay? Who are you texting during our wedding about executing a plan?" "Baby, please. Don't call me baby." Sarah's voice broke completely. "Tell me right now what this is." Marcus stood too, his hands up in a placating gesture. Okay. Yes, I was texting a business partner. We had a deal going. Timing was crucial. I had to stay in touch. But it's not what you're thinking." "A business partner?" I said coldly. "Is that what you call Jennifer Walsh?" Marcus froze. "Who's Jennifer Walsh?" Sarah asked, looking between us. I pulled up Harold's report on my iPad and slid it across the table. "Jennifer Walsh is Marcus's girlfriend of 5 years. The woman he's been with this entire time. The woman he was texting during your wedding, telling her that this was all temporary, that in 6 months you'd execute the plan and he'd come back to her with money." Sarah grabbed the iPad, scrolling through photos of Marcus and Jennifer together, reading the credit card statements showing charges made in both their names, seeing the timeline that proved Marcus had been living 2 lives simultaneously. "No," Sarah whispered. "No, This can't. You said you loved me. You said you wanted to spend your life with me. I do love you, Marcus said, but his voice lacked conviction now, and we all heard it. You're lying. Sarah threw the iPad at him. It hit his chest and clattered to the floor. You married me for my father's money. That's what all of this was. Sarah, please, just listen. His name isn't even Marcus Chun, I said, standing up. It's Michael Thomas Chandler. He changed it 6 years ago after declaring bankruptcy, owing creditors $400,000. Marcus's face went white. He's done this before. I continued, my voice like ice. 3 times that we know of. Diane Westerson, Patricia Gomez, Catherine Ross. He targets wealthy women, gains their trust, takes what he can, and moves on. You're just the latest mark. Dad, stop, Sarah sobbed. Please stop. I can't stop, sweetheart. Because you need to know everything. I turned to Marcus, and I let him see the full force of my rage. Catherine Ross died in a suspicious fall down the stairs, with Marcus as the sole beneficiary of her recently changed will. The case was ruled accidental, but her family believed otherwise. Sarah made a sound like a wounded animal. 2 weeks before your wedding, I continued, you convinced Sarah to make you a beneficiary on her trust fund. $12 million that would go to you if anything happened to her. You've run up $40,000 on her credit cards. You positioned yourself to access her accounts. You were systematically positioning yourself to take everything. Marcus backed toward the door. I don't have to listen to this. Yes, you do, I said. Because there's one more person I'd like you to meet. I nodded to Mike, who'd been filming everything from the corner. He stepped out, and, a moment later, Jennifer Walsh walked in. Jennifer Walsh was pretty in person, blonde, petite, wearing jeans and a sweater, looking nervous but determined. She stopped in the doorway, looking at Marcus with an expression somewhere between love and hatred. Jennifer, Marcus breathed, all the color draining from his face. Hi, Marcus, she said quietly. Or should I call you Michael? Sarah stared at this woman, this stranger who somehow knew her husband better than she did. You're Jennifer? You're the one he was texting. For 5 years, Jennifer said, walking into the room. 5 years of him telling me we were building a future together, that he just needed to make some money first, establish himself, and then we'd have everything we wanted. You knew? Sarah's voice cracked. You knew he was marrying me? He told me it was temporary, Jennifer said, and tears started streaming down her face. He said you were just a business arrangement, that your father had money and connections we needed, that after 6 months or so, once he'd secured access to the funds, he'd leave you and come back to me. We'd disappear together, start over somewhere new with enough money to never worry again. Sarah collapsed back into her chair, her whole body shaking. And I believed him, Jennifer continued, looking at Marcus with disgust now. For 5 years, I believed every lie. I let him use my credit cards. I loaned him money I didn't have. I waited while he dated other women, while he got engaged to that poor woman Catherine who died, while he moved on to Patricia and Diane before you. She looked at Sarah. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry I was part of this. You're lying, Marcus said, but his voice was weak now, desperate. You're all lying. Sarah, baby, you know me. You know I love you. Stop calling me baby. Sarah screamed. Stop lying to me. I'm not lying. Your father hired these people to say these things because he never wanted us to be together. He's manipulating you. I have proof, I said coldly, pulling out Harold's 70-page report and dropping it on the table with a heavy thud. Every false identity, every woman you've conned, every forged document, every cent you've stolen, every lie you've told. It's all in here, documented and verified. I pulled out another folder. These are the criminal complaints I'm filing on Monday morning. Fraud, identity theft, forgery. My attorney estimates you're looking at 5 to 10 years in federal prison. Marcus's face went from white to gray. You can't. You have no evidence that would hold up in court. I have everything, I said. Text messages from your own phone. Financial records showing you've been using 2 identities. Testimony from Jennifer about your long-term fraud. Testimony from Diane Westerson and Patricia Gomez, who've both agreed to come forward now that they know they weren't alone. And I have this. I pulled out the final document, the trust fund beneficiary change form, with Marcus's signature. You forged my daughter's signature on this form, I said. She never changed her trust beneficiary. You did, 3 days after the wedding, while she was sleeping off jet lag from the flight to Bali. You took her laptop, accessed her accounts using passwords you'd gotten from her, and submitted this change electronically. Sarah's head snapped up. What? We have the IP address from the submission. It came from your laptop, Sarah, but at 3 a.m. on a night you were passed out from sleeping pills Marcus gave you for the jet lag. We have the pharmacy record showing Marcus filled a prescription for Ambien the day before the flight, even though it was written in your name. We have everything. Marcus backed toward the door again, his hands shaking. This is insane. You're all insane. Sarah, we need to leave. You're not going anywhere, I said, and my voice was so cold even I barely recognized it. You have two choices, Marcus. Or should I say Michael? You can face criminal prosecution. I'll press every charge possible. Sarah will testify, Jennifer will testify, Diane and Patricia will testify. You'll go to prison. And when you get out, you'll still owe restitution for everything you stole, which means you'll be paying off debt for the rest of your life. I let that sink in. Or, I continued, you can sign an annulment agreement right now. You'll repay every cent you took from Sarah, the $40,000 on credit cards, the money you borrowed from her, all of it. You'll remove yourself from any and all accounts or beneficiary designations. You'll sign away any claim to Sarah's property, inheritance, or assets. And you'll leave. Tonight. And you'll never contact Sarah again. And if I do that, you won't press charges? Marcus asked, a flicker of hope in his voice. Oh, I'll still press charges, I said. But I'll limit them to fraud and theft. Without the identity theft and forgery charges, you're looking at probation and restitution instead of prison time. It's still a criminal record, but not a decade in federal prison. Marcus looked around the room. At me, at Linda and Tom who'd witnessed everything, at Jennifer who'd betrayed him, at Sarah who was sobbing into her hands. You're bluffing, he said. You won't actually press charges. You won't want to put Sarah through a trial. Try me, I said. I've already filed preliminary complaints. The FBI is reviewing the case for wire fraud because you used electronic communications to commit fraud across state lines. The Connecticut State Police are reviewing for identity theft. You crossed too many lines, Marcus. You got greedy. And now you're going to pay. I pulled out one final document, the annulment agreement Richard had prepared. You have 60 seconds to decide. Sign this and take the lesser charges, or refuse and spend the next decade in prison. Choose. Marcus stared at the document, his hands trembling. Then he looked at Sarah, and for just a moment, I saw something like genuine regret cross his face. I'm sorry, he said quietly. For what it's worth, you were kind to me. I wish things could have been different. Get out, Sarah whispered. Just sign that thing and get out of my life. Marcus picked up the pen, his hand shaking so badly he could barely write. But he signed. Every page. Every clause. Agreeing to the annulment, to the repayment terms, to removing himself from Sarah's life completely. When he finished, I took the document and handed it to Richard, who'd been waiting in the kitchen, watching everything through the doorway. It's done, Richard said. Marcus, or Michael, or whatever your real name is, you need to leave now. And if you come near Sarah or this family again, if you violate any term of this agreement, the full weight of every criminal charge will come down on you. Are we clear? Marcus nodded, looking like a man whose entire world had just collapsed. Jennifer, he said, turning to her. We can still. Don't, Jennifer said, her voice hard now. We're done. I'm testifying against you in the fraud cases from Diane and Patricia, and I'm pressing charges for the $40,000 you stole from me. You're on your own. Marcus looked around the room one more time, then walked out. We heard his car start, heard him drive away, and then Sarah broke down completely. If you've ever watched someone you love be manipulated by a predator, or if you've ever been that person who needed saving, please share your story in the comments. You're not alone. Linda and Tom held Sarah while she sobbed. Great, wrenching sobs that shook her whole body. I wanted to hold her too, but I could barely stand. The adrenaline that had carried me through the confrontation was draining away, leaving me hollow and shaking. Jennifer stood awkwardly near the door, tears streaming down her own face. I should go, she said quietly. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry I was part of hurting you. Sarah looked up, her face blotchy and destroyed. Did you love him? Jennifer nodded. I thought I did. I thought we were going to have a life together. I thought all the waiting and the pain would be worth it. Me too, Sarah whispered. The two women looked at each other, two victims of the same predator, connected by betrayal. He's good at it, Jennifer said softly. Making you believe. Making you feel like you're the center of his world. That's what makes it so hard to see the truth. I should have seen it, Sarah said, her voice breaking. There were signs. Times when his stories didn't add up. Moments when I felt like something was off. But I wanted to believe in him so badly. That's not your fault, I said, finally finding my voice. That's what predators do. They find vulnerable people and they exploit that vulnerability. You're not weak or stupid for wanting love. You're human. Sarah looked at me, and I saw in her eyes the same devastation I'd felt when Elena died. That sense that the world had become a fundamentally unsafe place, that trust itself was broken. How did you know? She asked. How did you figure it out? I didn't, I admitted. Mike did. The photographer. He saw things in the wedding photos, and he called me. Mike Foster. I nodded. He has a daughter too. He said he couldn't stay silent. Would you like to thank him? He's been here all evening, documenting everything in case we needed it for court. Mike stepped into the room, looking uncomfortable. I'm sorry, Miss Harrison. I didn't want to invade your privacy, but I couldn't let this continue. Sarah stood on shaky legs, walked over to Mike, and hugged him. Thank you, she whispered. Thank you for caring about a stranger. Mike hugged her back, his own eyes wet. My daughter is 10. I pray that if she's ever in danger, someone will care enough to speak up. I just did what I hoped someone would do for her. After a few more minutes, Jennifer and Mike both left, leaving just family. Tom and Linda helped Sarah to the couch in the living room, while I sat in my chair, feeling every one of my 68 years. Dad, Sarah said after a long silence. I'm pregnant. The words hit like a bomb. Linda gasped. Tom swore quietly. I couldn't breathe. I found out 3 days before the wedding. Sarah continued, her voice flat. I was so happy. I thought it was perfect timing. A new marriage, a baby, a future. She laughed bitterly. I told Marcus on our wedding night. And you know what he did? He smiled and said all the right things. And then he excused himself to go to the bathroom. And that's when he texted Jennifer asking how much longer he had to wait. Oh, sweetheart, Linda whispered. I'm 8 weeks pregnant with a con artist's baby, Sarah said. And I don't know what to do. I got up and sat beside her, taking her hand. Whatever you decide, we'll support you. If you want to keep the baby, we'll help you raise them. If you don't, we'll be there for that too. This is your choice, and there is no wrong answer. I want to keep it, Sarah said immediately, then started crying again. Is that crazy? He's a monster, and I want to keep his baby. It's not his baby, I said firmly. If you keep this child, it's your baby. Yours. Marcus signed away all parental rights in the annulment agreement. He has no claim, no rights, no role. This baby would be yours, and only yours. And ours, Linda added. We're family, Sarah. This baby would be loved and wanted and cared for. Sarah nodded, crying harder. Mom would have known what to say. Mom would have. She would have known how to make this okay. Your mother, I said, my own voice breaking, would tell you that you're stronger than you know. That you've survived losing her, and you'll survive this too. That being fooled by a skilled liar doesn't make you weak. It makes you someone who was brave enough to love, and that's never wrong. Sarah collapsed against me, and I held her while she cried. Tom and Linda sat with us, and we stayed that way for a long time. A broken family, holding each other together. 3 weeks later, Sarah moved back home. Not because she couldn't take care of herself, but because she didn't want to be alone in the apartment she'd shared with Marcus, even briefly. We converted the guest room into a proper bedroom for her, and slowly, carefully, she started putting her life back together. The annulment was processed quickly. The evidence was so overwhelming, and the marriage so brief and so clearly fraudulent, that the court fast-tracked it. Sarah was legally single again within 2 weeks. Marcus disappeared. He paid back the $40,000 on the credit cards, or someone did. We suspected Jennifer's family might have helped, but we'd seen no sign of him. Jennifer had indeed pressed charges for the money he'd stolen from her, and both Diane and Patricia had come forward. Marcus was facing multiple fraud charges across 3 states. Richard said he'd probably take a plea deal and serve some time. I hoped he'd spend a long time in prison, but I knew the reality was probably probation and restitution. At least he was out of Sarah's life. Mike became an unexpected friend. He stopped by once a week, usually with coffee and bagels, and he and Sarah would talk. He never pushed, never asked invasive questions, just listened. His daughter Emily even came once, and she and Sarah talked about art. Emily was into photography like her dad, and Sarah was a painter. The baby was growing. Sarah had good days and bad days. Some days she was excited about being a mother, planning nursery colors, and looking at baby clothes. Other days she cried and said she couldn't do it, that she'd been so stupid, that she'd brought a child into this mess. On those days, I'd remind her, "You didn't make this mess. He did. And you're not raising his child. You're raising yours. Your baby, who's going to be loved and safe and wanted." It helped. Slowly. 3 months later, Sarah was starting to show now. 4 months pregnant, definitely visible, and she'd started wearing maternity clothes. She looked beautiful. Pregnancy agreed with her, gave her a glow that had nothing to do with Marcus and everything to do with the life she was creating. She'd also started painting again. For the first time since her mother died, she'd set up an easel in the sunroom and started creating. Bold, angry paintings at first, processing her rage and betrayal through color and texture. But gradually, they'd become softer, more hopeful. She was healing. Mike came by one Saturday afternoon with his family, his wife Rachel and daughter Emily. We barbecued in the backyard, and I watched Sarah laugh at something Rachel said, watched her show Emily some painting techniques, watched her be human again instead of just broken. "She's going to be okay," Mike said quietly, standing beside me at the grill. "Thanks to you," I replied. "I just took some photos. You're the one who protected her." We both did. I flipped a burger. "Mike, I've been meaning to ask. Why did you really call me? You could have just delivered the photos and stayed out of it. Why risk getting involved?" Mike was quiet for a moment, watching his daughter. "My sister," he said finally. She was 25, beautiful, trusting. She met a guy at a bar who seemed perfect. They dated for 8 months. He convinced her to move across the country with him. And then, he changed. Became controlling, violent. She tried to leave, and he killed her. I turned to look at him, shocked. "It was 15 years ago," Mike continued. "And I've spent every day since wishing someone had seen the warning signs. Wishing someone had intervened before it was too late. When I saw those photos, those texts, I saw a predator in action. And I couldn't stay silent. Not again. I'm sorry about your sister," I said quietly. "Me too. But maybe I saved Sarah for her. Maybe this was my chance to do for someone else's daughter what no one did for mine." We stood in silence for a moment. Two men who'd both loved daughters, both feared for them, both done what we could to protect them. "Thank you," I said finally. "For Emily. For doing this in her memory." Mike nodded, his eyes wet. "Emily, my daughter. I named her after my sister. So in a way, both Emily's saved Sarah. The one I lost, and the one I'm raising to be brave enough to speak up when something's wrong." 6 months later, Sarah gave birth to a baby girl on a snowy February morning. 7 pounds, 3 ounces. Perfect fingers, perfect toes, a head full of dark hair. She came into the world crying, and Sarah cried too. But these were different tears. Tears of joy and relief and overwhelming love. "She's beautiful," Sarah whispered, holding her daughter for the first time. "She's perfect. What are you going to name her?" Linda asked, standing beside the hospital bed with Tom. Sarah looked at me. I was thinking, "Elena, after Mom. If that's okay with you, Dad." My throat closed up completely. I nodded, unable to speak. "Elena Rose Harrison," Sarah said, looking down at her daughter. "You're going to be so loved, little one. So loved and safe and wanted." I held baby Elena an hour later. This tiny perfect human who knew nothing of con artists or betrayal or pain. She just knew she was warm and safe and surrounded by people who would die to protect her. "Your grandmother would have loved you," I whispered to her. "And you look like her. Same nose, same serious expression. You're going to break hearts someday. Good hearts, I hope. Not like your father." "She won't," Sarah said firmly. "Because I'm going to teach her to be strong. To trust herself. To recognize red flags. To know that she's valuable on her own, not because of who she's with or what she can provide." "You're going to be an amazing mother," I said. "I learned from the best father," Sarah replied. 2 years later, final scene. Sarah's art gallery opening was on a Saturday in October, 2 years almost to the day after her wedding to Marcus. The gallery was in downtown Hartford, a small space, but hers. She'd filled it with her paintings. The journey from rage to healing, from brokenness to strength, all captured in color and texture and raw emotion. The opening was packed. Art collectors, local press, friends and family. Mike was there with Rachel and Emily, who was now 12 and had her own camera, documenting the night. Linda and Tom came, proud and beaming. Even Jennifer Walsh came. She and Sarah had become unlikely friends over the past 2 years, bonded by shared trauma and the hard work of healing. And in Sarah's arms, just waking up from a nap, was Elena, 2 years old now, with dark curls and her mother's eyes and a smile that could light up a room. "Dad," Sarah said, finding me in the crowd. "Come here. I want to show you something." She led me to the back of the gallery, to the final painting in the exhibition. It was large, 6 feet by 4 feet, and unlike the others, this one wasn't abstract. It was a portrait of me. I stood there, staring at myself through my daughter's eyes. Not idealized, but real. Older, tired, but strong. The painting captured something I'd never seen in a mirror. The fierce protectiveness, the love, the determination to save my child no matter the cost. The title plate read, "My father, my hero." "Sarah," I whispered. "You saved me," she said simply, "when I couldn't save myself. When I was so blinded by wanting love that I couldn't see I was being used. You saw it. You investigated. You built a case. You destroyed him and protected me. And then you helped me heal. I just did what any father would." "No," she interrupted firmly. "Not any father. My father. The man who lost his wife and didn't fall apart. Who raised a grieving daughter and kept her safe. Who saw a predator circling his child and went to war." She shifted Elena to her other hip. "This little girl is going to grow up knowing that her grandfather taught her mother how to be strong. That when the world tried to break us, we broke it back. That family protects family, always." I couldn't speak. Could barely breathe. "The gallery opening," Sarah continued. "It's not just about the art. It's about reclaiming my life. About showing that Marcus Chun, or Michael Chandler, or whatever his name is, he didn't win. He didn't break me. I'm still here, still creating, still loving, still living." She looked around the gallery, at all the people who'd come to celebrate her. "And I'm surrounded by people who fought for me. Mike, who spoke up. Jennifer, who told the truth. Richard and Harold, who built the case. Linda and Tom, who held me while I cried. And you, Dad. Always you." Elena reached for me, and I took her in my arms. She snuggled against my chest, completely trusting, completely safe. "Grandpa," she said, her version of Grandpa. "Love you." "I love you too, little one," I whispered. "So much." Sarah wiped her eyes. "Marcus sent a letter last week. From prison. He took a plea deal, 3 years for the fraud charges. He wants to meet Elena." My whole body tensed. "What did you tell him?" I told him no. Elena isn't his daughter. She's mine. He signed away all rights, and beyond that, he has no place in our lives. He made his choices, and now he lives with them. "Good," I said. But I also told him something else. Sarah's voice was steady now, strong. "I told him that I forgive him." I looked at her, shocked. "You forgive him?" "Not for him," she said. "For me. Because I was carrying around all this rage and pain, and it was eating me alive. So I chose to let it go. Not to forget what he did, not to excuse it, but to stop letting it poison my present." She smiled. "You taught me that, actually. When you chose to expose him instead of just destroying him. You could have just pressed all the charges, sent him to prison for a decade, and walked away. But instead, you gave him a choice. You gave him a chance to make it slightly less awful. You chose strategy over rage. I wanted to kill him, I admitted. I know. But you didn't. You saved me instead. And that's the difference between revenge and justice. Revenge would have felt good for a minute. Justice protected me for a lifetime." The gallery opening went until late. People bought paintings. Sarah sold 7 pieces, enough to fund another year of creating. Mike took beautiful photos that would end up in the local arts magazine. Elena charmed everyone, tottering around on chubby toddler legs, pointing at the paintings and saying, "Mama did." As the crowd thinned, I stood in the center of the gallery with Elena asleep against my shoulder, and I thought about how far we'd come. 2 years ago, my daughter had been destroyed, betrayed by a man she'd loved, carrying his child, her whole future seeming like a wasteland of pain and regret. Now she was thriving, creating, building a life on her own terms, raising a daughter who would know nothing but love and safety and strength. Marcus was in prison. Jennifer was in therapy, rebuilding her own life. Diane and Patricia had gotten justice. And Sarah had gotten herself back. Dad, she said, coming to stand beside me. Thank you. For everything. For believing me when I said I wanted to keep Elena. For not judging me. For letting me move home and heal at my own pace. For being exactly what I needed. You're my daughter, I said simply. There's nothing I wouldn't do for you. I know. And someday, Elena will know it too. She'll know that her grandfather went to war for her mother. That he fought monsters and won. That family means showing up, even when it's hard. Especially when it's hard. She took Elena from my arms, cradling her sleeping daughter. I'm okay now, you know. Really okay. I know I wasn't for a long time, but I am now. I'm happy. I'm whole. I'm exactly where I'm supposed to be. I can see that, I said. You're radiant. I learned from Mom, she said. She always said that our value doesn't come from who loves us, but from who we are. I forgot that for a while. Marcus made me forget, but I remember now. We walked out of the gallery together, into the cool October night. The same season when she'd married Marcus, when everything had seemed perfect but was actually about to explode. But this October was different. This October was about new beginnings, not endings. About strength, not betrayal. About love that was real, not performed. Mike's waiting for us, Sarah said. He wants to take a family photo. You, me, Elena, Linda, and Tom. For his portfolio, but also just to remember this night. I'd like that, I said. We posed in front of the gallery, 3 generations of family, plus the chosen family that had gathered around us. Mike set up his camera, checked the lighting, adjusted the composition. Okay, he said. Everyone smile. This is a celebration. Sarah's gallery opening, Elena's family, ZAHA being the best grandfather in Connecticut. In the country, Sarah corrected. In the world, Elena mumbled, half asleep. We all laughed, and Mike captured it. That moment of pure joy, of healing, of victory over the darkness that had tried to consume us. Later, when I saw the photo, I barely recognized myself. The man in that picture looked younger than 68. Looked happy. Looked like someone who'd fought a war and won not just the battle, but the peace that followed. That man had his daughter and granddaughter by his side, surrounded by people who'd become family through shared struggle. That man had saved his child from a predator and helped her become stronger than she'd ever been. That man was me. And for the first time in a long time, I was proud of exactly who I'd become. 1 week later, I was in my study when the email arrived. From Marcus. I almost deleted it without reading, but curiosity won. Mr. Harrison, I know I have no right to contact you. I know I destroyed your trust and hurt your daughter in ways I can never fix. But I'm writing because I need to say something, and I don't know if I'll ever get another chance. You were right about everything. I am a con artist. I have been for years. I targeted vulnerable women, and I took what I could from them, and I told myself it was okay because they were rich and I was just trying to survive. But the truth is, I'm just a coward. I'm someone who never learned to build anything real, so I stole from people who had. I took and I used and I destroyed, and I told myself I was smart, not cruel. Sarah was different. I didn't expect that. I expected another Mark, another source of money. But she was kind to me. Really kind. Not because of what I could do for her, but just because that's who she is. And for a few moments, I almost let myself believe I could be the person she thought I was. Almost. But I couldn't. Because I'm not that person. I'm the person who texted his girlfriend during his own wedding. Who forged documents and stole money. Who looked at a good woman and saw only a paycheck. I don't expect forgiveness. I don't deserve it. But I want you to know that if there's one thing I regret in my life of regrets, it's hurting Sarah. She deserved so much better than me. Take care of her. And take care of Elena. I signed away my rights because I knew I had nothing to offer her except a father she'd be ashamed of. Better to have no father than that. I hope you never respond to this. I hope you delete it and forget I exist. That's what I deserve. Michael. I stared at the email for a long time. Then I hit delete. He was right about one thing. Sarah deserved better. And she got it. She got herself, strong, healed, whole. She got Elena. She got a life built on truth instead of lies. And Michael Chandler got exactly what he deserved. A prison cell and a lifetime of knowing he'd destroyed something beautiful and would never get it back. That was justice. And justice, I'd learned, was so much sweeter than revenge could ever be. Thank you so much for watching my story all the way to the end. Your support means everything. Don't forget to subscribe to my channel and drop a comment below. I'd love to hear your thoughts.